Dominica. We are here because we want to express a total conviction that our job is to help make a change in the lives of the people of the region. And so from that perspective, you have 100% of my commitment, 100% of my time, that what this is about is trying to make change. But change has to start from a dream. Because if you don't have a dream, you don't have a vision, you don't know how far you need to change. And I see not where we want to be as adults, but where I think the children of the region need to be in another 50 to 100 years. And that vision for me is one where we have resilient economies. And I was saying to Ambassador Francine this morning, Dominica is already ahead of the game in having a vision about being the first country to become a climate resilient space. It has to have a vision about sustainable livelihoods, one where not only is poverty and inadequate means of sustenance not something that we will be depending on governments for, but something that each individual in their own right will have the empowerment and the means to be able to be sustainable, to make something of themselves for themselves. I think I have a vision equally where I see connectivity, where the entire region as we know it is a region that can truly say we are connected physically, movement of people, movement of capital, a region that is connected digitally, where we can say there is one single digital grid that can serve the entire region from its northernmost to its southernmost point. A region that is connected culturally, where we can identify as St. Lucians or Dominicans, but can genuinely say we are Caribbean people, where we can think beyond national boundaries to regional spaces and see the benefit of being together, moving as one, strengthening each other in one connected line that says this is a connected space. And I see a region equally where we become known as the innovation space, the innovation hub that can actually help advance not just our region, but even broader humanity. And I think we have the means to do it if we begin to believe in ourselves. We all say we are small, we haven't got resources, we haven't got this, we haven't got that. But I think we all can agree when I say the one thing we are not short on, the one thing we have demonstrated that we have been able to show to the entire world in every corner of this planet, at every major university, at every institute of learning, our people have gone and have stood toe to toe with the best and the brightest from anywhere else in the world. Therefore, in terms of level playing fields, we do not have a comparative disadvantage in the use of our intellect. And if we can start from that premise and we can believe in ourselves, I think we have the means to transform this region into a region that can be a place of choice, a region that our kids and grandchildren will want to come, a region that others may want to see as a place where they can actually want to claim this as home. And it's not an imagination that is full of just empty promise. I think it's an imagination that we can all look to work towards to make a reality going forward. And that, I think, is the vision where I think CDB sees itself working in partnership with all the borrowing member countries, all of the private sector entities, all of the households, the people, big and small, in the region towards achieving that long-term goal that will be long, long, long after I am gone as president. But as I said, it's not about me. It is where do we start the journey and how do we keep the fire alive. And I think, PM, you've mentioned the work that the bank has done in Dominica and elsewhere. Whether it's in the BNTF, the Basic Needs Trust Fund, looking to reduce poverty and help communities that are vulnerable and in need, making a difference, whether it be in the two key projects we are talking about now in the water sector, or for that matter in the communities line of the projects, the road from Loubier to Bagatelle, well, eventually Bagatelle. I think for me what stands out in those projects is, and I really want you to keep that in mind, they are not a road. It is not a water catchment, water refurbishment. They become changes in the lives of people. So that the road to Loubier, not only does it open opportunities for productive capacity, not only does it tackle climate resilience, not only does it tackle social improvements, whether it's through safety and otherwise, it touches many aspects of our lives. And that is what I think we want to bring into the CDB mode of operation. Development is not an easy business. Development is not a short-term business. And development cannot be seen as a slice. It has to treat the entirety. And in doing that, it becomes about people, because people are very complex organisms with mental, emotional, physical needs that all need to be met. And how we get to those needs mean we have to look at the totality of individuals, the totality of societies as a means of actually making progress. And so I want to be able to leave you with that specific thought. We at the bank will do everything we can in partnership with the governments of the region, and in particular Dominica, being close and equally in affinity of language and culture. It will not be my first and last time Prime Minister. I'll definitely be back as often as I need, equally to meet with the people of this land. Our region needs us now. We don't have the luxury of time. If we don't take it and move it today, it won't happen, and we'll only look back with time and wonder why we never took the opportunity. So with that, all I can say is you have our commitment. I'm looking forward equally to your support, your dedication. It's a joint responsibility of all. We all have to do what we need to do to help build a future of tomorrow that will be actually needed. And it is only for want of saying, we cannot allow our children to look back and say, why didn't they? And so the call is, let's give it our very best. You have full commitment. And Prime Minister, people of Dominica, CDB is there to be with you, to support you, to work with you, such that tomorrow, in another 50 years, we genuinely will be able to turn back and say we did it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leon. And I think when we get to the 5th year, we will have a full report card. Maybe he'll give us a report card at that point of the efforts that he's made and the threats that we've had out of his stint as president. We thank Dr. Leon. We thank Mr. Nichols as well, Dr. Nichols. We also thank the staff of the CDB for the efforts that they've made towards us achieving a number of our milestones and our projects, having our projects approved and approved by the board. It's tremendous work. I think every ministry knows that it's a process, and when we get to the end of the process, at least not necessarily the end, but when we get to the process where the board grants approval, it's a sense normally of relief that yes, we've gotten to that point and then we can start the project. And so the efforts of the staff of the CDB must be recognized, as well as the staff of various government ministries and agencies. And so we thank everybody. We thank the Wasco Creed for joining us this morning, and the media as well, the listening public. We thank you for joining us. We thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So we pause for a question or a few questions.
Yes, good morning to you. Good afternoon to you. And I'm Clint Smarty from DBS Radio. Dr. Leon, there's some in the Caribbean who believe that the Caribbean Development Bank needs to act and respond more speedily to the concerns facing member territories. You've spoken about the new vision for the Caribbean Development Bank. If that is true, from your view, if that is true, is that something you would like to address during your tenure in terms of the Caribbean Development Bank responding more speedily to the concerns facing member territories? My other question would have to be about COVID-19 and what, in fact, the impact it has had on the Caribbean islands. I am particularly interested in the case of Dominica. What are you seeing from where you sit? What are you seeing about the outlook for Dominica going forward? If I have a chance, if I'm allowed to ask another question by my colleagues, I will do that a little later on.
I think two questions. One was on change and the other on COVID. Let's probably start with the following remark. I am focused on how do we get to tomorrow's destination. Now, to the extent that yesterday is as good a guide as we can have, I would accept immediately and without flinching that we probably have not been as responsive, agile, able to manage expectations or even delivery as you have articulated. But for me, that doesn't say that we don't have the means and the capacity to do different. And that is, I think, where I start. And I can give you an immediate assurance. Maybe in another 5 years, if you would like, we can have a scorecard. Did you really make any change? There's no guarantee in life, but I can indicate there's a commitment. And that commitment is to start the journey from day one, that we need to be listening, we need to be leading, we need to be responsive, because, as I said, it is not about the CDB. It is about changing the lives of people. And as long as we do that, there is no need to have egos of institutions. And so we will do whatever it takes, in whichever way it will, to make sure we make changes in the lives of people. That is the commitment. And however we dice it, nimble, not nimble, we will be doing what we need to do to make that change in the lives of people. And after 5 years, ask me again and I'll tell you all the efforts I did. Not what I accomplished, I cannot change that, but I can tell you all the efforts I did. So you could rest assured of that part. The CDB we are talking about, the CDB and the group of staff that I have that are extremely dedicated are looking to make a change, a difference in the lives of the people of the region that we serve. The second question on COVID. You know, COVID, I think, did a number of things. But one of the things that stands out is COVID laid bare to us that we were already in a very bad space. And I say bad space because there are a number of structural issues that we all agree we needed to address. COVID came and added misery on top of that. And so you cannot separate COVID and what was there before. They've now combined. And so we have a higher mountain, a bigger hurdle, a more intense challenge that we need to overcome. Now, once you start from that perspective, the question really is, what is the future? Not how are we managing from COVID, because COVID is not on its own. It's now an accumulation. How are we managing from the future? And specifically, if we think of Dominica, all the elements that were specific, peculiar to Dominica before COVID are still there, technically. Except that I think I can say, and speaking with not just PM, but all the other members of the administration, there is a lot afoot to help change, overcome, manage Dominica for the betterment of the people of Dominica than there was before COVID. Have we solved all the problems? Obviously not. We cannot. Because the mountain, as I said, is more. But if you just think in terms of how we measure those things, in 2020, activity in Dominica, what we call growth, fell by about 16%. 2021, still in the heights of COVID, it improved 4.2, 4.3%. This year, even with COVID still around, even with now the war going on, we're still looking at a growth rate probably of just under 4%. Now I want to ask you, when we say, what do we see as prospects? Clearly that is in the right trajectory, and we should not diminish that. But the real question for me is, how much is enough? When you fall 16% in 1 year, you go from, let's say, 100 to 84. Now you're going to grow 4%. 4% takes you now from 84, you go up by 17%, 17 on 84, you end up with about a good maybe 90. You grow by another 3, you move up to 93. You're still not yet near the 100 you started. And I think I want you to appreciate that all the efforts that are taking place now to change, to make better, is still in what we would like to think of as recovery. We have not yet gotten back to where we were. And so the Herculean efforts that are being put to manage in the midst of an ongoing COVID and the war and the aftermath of a Maria and the aftermath of an Erica, that literally brought you down, not from 100 to 80, but maybe from 100 to, I don't know, 50. getting back to that 100 pre-Erica is a serious, serious mountain. And so, when at the same time you have big visions like we need to build back with resilience, and we need to build back such that people have a better way of living, and we need to build back roads for communities, and build water systems with redundancy that will allow you, when you have a next hurricane, you can live for 2-3 weeks without needing to say, I need to import water. Or you have the means to say people can eat and drink. This is not measured in the 4% growth. It's not. And even when I say it's not yet enough, we still have a long way to go. But let's not mix the potential with where we are and how far we need to go. And I think the potential is there in Dominica. But what it will take, without being a politician, okay, what it will take is a joint effort by all of the people of Dominica to support themselves. And by that I mean support your government, support your people, your institutions, to be able to help move the trajectory as a people together. And let's hope and pray another Maria doesn't hit this year. I see there's a huge set of storms coming through for this year. And we will have to continue to face that all the time. And that is why resilience is so important. And that is why sticking together as a people is so important. Because it will take a joint effort, joint responsibility to drive forward. And then you will be able to answer the question yourself. That the future of Dominica is bright. Not because of anything outside, but because of the joint effort of the people of Dominica to create, I want to underline that, create a bright future. In my books I say the only way you can predict tomorrow is when you start to create it. Then you know where you're going. And that will be my answer to you. Join forces, create, make the future a bright outlook that you can report on.
Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Have a blessed afternoon.
So you were listening to this press conference at the Ministry of Finance, the conference room of the Ministry of Finance. And we have heard about several interventions that will be undertaken in partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank. And of course, this meeting just ended. The CDB president in Dominica for the very first time, Dr. Leon, and he spoke about the interventions that the CDB will be making to Dominica. Prime Minister Roosevelt Scred, of course, addressed the function here this morning, and indicating that government has contracted loans from the Caribbean Development Bank to undertake developmental projects in Dominica, and among them is the Louviers to Bagatelle Road project. That's a massive project which will start off soon, and I think it costs $132.6 million for the first phase of that serious undertaking. There's also a UK grant to finance a project to improve the water system, and this is at a cost of $106.7 million. And this includes the West Coast, the Roseau Valley as well, the East Coast, and the Calibishi. So these communities will benefit tremendously from these projects. And as we heard from the Prime Minister, these interventions have been designed with resilience in mind. And Dominica, of course, recognizes the impact of climate change on our society. And also mention was made that $239.3 million will be spent on these major projects. That's the road enhancement from Lubia to Bagatelle that I just spoke about. But there's also the water sector strategic development project. This too is another massive undertaking, and several areas will benefit from this, to include the West Coast, the Roseau Valley, the East Coast, and Calibishi. So several water systems for various communities will be set up. Communities like Wharton Waven, Castlebros, there's one in Monjun as well to be constructed, Trafalgar, Coolibistry, I think Grand Savannah as well, in Salisbury was mentioned, and the Roseau Valley and Calibishi as well. So a lot of capital will be injected into these developmental projects. The Caribbean Development Bank also financed a project to upgrade the Layu Road, and there's also an intervention that will sort of create safety for residents in the Kalinago territory. So that too was mentioned. So Dominica, benefiting of course from this collaboration with the Caribbean Development Bank. The bank is saying that it is fully committed, to doing everything that it can to assist Dominica in this developmental thrust. And one of the things that the president of the CDB noted is that Dominica is ahead in being a country that has the vision of becoming the first climate resilient space. I also have to mention as well, at the head table, we had the Chief Executive Officer of CREED Dominica, Francine Baron, and also among the audience, because this major signing was done with DOWASCO as well, because of course we are looking at a major water sector strategic development project. So the acting manager of DOWASCO, Juliana Buston, was present as well. So a lot will be happening as far as these projects are concerned, and these interventions will surely help us, as a small island developing state, when you consider the importance of water, and ensuring that we sustain this valuable commodity. It speaks volumes about our own water resource, because we have a lot of rivers, we boast of a lot of rivers, and the thrust is that we can maintain our water in Dominica, we can sustain our water, and we can ensure that as far as storage is concerned, we are on point with that as well. So there will be water abstraction, storage and distribution systems as well for targeted areas, and these will be expanded and rehabilitated. I think there will be a wastewater system expansion and upgrade at Jimmet, and that will be also inclusive of the new seawall. So there's a lot of components in these projects that will be undertaken, and there's also a wastewater upgrade in Jimmet, and that will involve 180 new household connections. So Dominica stands to benefit tremendously from this intervention by the Caribbean Development Bank, and the president of the CDB making his first visit to Dominica since of course taking up that position. He worked with several regional interventions, and he also worked with the IMF, that's Dr. Leon. And so Dominica continues to enjoy a very fruitful partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank. So the function has ended, very important function, very brief, but very significant. And we are happy that we could bring it to you live on radio, and also on our Facebook page, DBS Radio. So what I'll do at this time is go back to studio, and we will continue with normal programming. Let me thank, of course, our technicians on duty. We had the technician Aaron Wilshire, and we also had Nichols Dennis on the outside broadcast. My Ivona John Baptist Luge taking you back to Studio 1.